Let me ask you a little bit about the Hammond. There's a new one that's supposedly that's been out, I guess, about 10 years now. They call it a digital tone wheel Hammond, I think.
You mean
The
the Hammond
B3,
Suzuki?
Hammond Suzuki.
Yeah, I know
Have
that
you
one.
played one? And
Yeah, I did because when I'm touring in other countries, I don't take my own equipment anymore because it's so heavy and it's so expensive, and it's mostly the instruments are ruined when you transport it with airlines and cargo and so I don't do this anymore. And since more people now have foot pedals from the Hammond organ with MIDI system or with a string bass, I can do this, and I have a kind of network. I know everywhere in the world, I know people who have an instrument I can play. But plus, the digital versions have becoming more and more. So there are more possibilities for me to play on those instruments, and because my problem in former times always was that nobody plays foot pedals with the Hammond organ, and they didn't have the special sound I need, a kind of string-based sound. So that was my problem, and I used to travel with my foot pedal case, with my foot pedals,
I see the big
which
one.
was very funny, especially when there were customs control. And but now they have also the digital solution and more Hammonds with string bass or MIDI bass, so it has become easier for me. And of course, I also played some digital ones, and but I have to admit, my favorite, of course, is the old Hammond organ with the tubes and the electromagnetic. It's just the sound.
You know, I saw something recently on YouTube where they showed the tone wheel,
Mm-hmm.
and you actually have to oil your
Yes,
organ.
twice a year.
So, I mean, it looks so complicated. It looks
No,
like
it's
something
not.
could go wrong very easily. How often does that happen? Have you ever had to stop a concert because of organ problems?
No, no. The funny thing is, if there is a problem, mostly the modern stuff is making troubles. The keyboards or whatever. The old Hammond is very strong. I mean, I've never had to stop a concert. I had things happen, of course. I had one concert in Vienna when suddenly fog came out of my organ in the middle of the concert because one of the switches. I mean, when you start a Hammond organ, there are two motors inside. One is the starter motor, and it's there that the main motor is turning in the right speed. So you have to push it up to make the main motor go in the right speed, and then you turn it off again, the starter motor. And this switch was somehow not going back, and nobody realized, and so it started to burn inside. Not really burning, but to melt. To
Hmm.
melt. And this caused the fog, but then we got a technician and he changed the switch, and then I continued with my concert. You know, in with this kind of instrument, you can help yourself. With modern digital instruments, you are helpless. If that doesn't work, it doesn't work. But the mechanical one is always a way to make it work.
I wondered if something were to happen to the tone wheel, would your MIDI still work?
Yeah, the
Could you
MIDI.
play something on your organ in a?
Yes, I could. The MIDI is independent from the Hammond organ sound. It's totally independent. So if worst came, I could play on the MIDI.
Does the MIDI have some kind of a Hammond sound on it that's
Yeah, not the MIDI. The MIDI is just the key contacts, but
right? But I mean, you have it programmed.
the expanders, yes, of course, they are Hammond sound. There's almost no synthesizer not having any kind of Hammond sound, but of course, it doesn't sound very well.
But I mean, it is a good feeling to know you have something, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I wanted to ask you your very first Hammond. What year was it when you got it, and what year is the Hammond from?
My Well, I started playing the organ in 1975, and I got my first real Hammond, electromagnetic Hammond organ about, actually I don't remember exactly, about 1978 or so. Let me think, 1970, yeah, something around that. And it's more than 50 years old, so right now I have more old Hammond organs, of course, and they're all very old.
How many do you have now?
Uh, I have to count. One, two, three, four, five.
Five.
No, six. Five or six.
And the oldest one, do you know what year it was made?
No, I don't know. I don't
When
know
did they
actually.
start? In the 60s? The early
No,
60s?
no, they started earlier. I mean, in the 30s, he
Oh,
started
that's right. That's right.
experimenting with
Yeah.
it. And in 75, when I started learning playing organ, the Hammond Organ Company stopped producing the old Hammond organs.
And I don't think there's been that many. A few 100,000 probably have been produced, maybe.
I don't know how many they produced, but a lot of them were in churches in black communities in America because they use it
Church.
for church services, and there you can still find many Hammond organs. And well, there are some around. You can get those if you like, yeah. And they live forever, hopefully.
I hope so. Is it really antiques almost?
Yeah, they are antique. Yeah, I always play old things. Old pipe organs, old Hammond organs, old synthesizers.
Another thing, Barbara, that I heard, is it true that the way you touch the keyboard
Mhm.
also affects the sound of a Hammond? It's not like a synthesizer, it doesn't matter,
Sure.
you touch it, but is that
Yeah.
true?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I think so because when you press a key at the Hammond organ, it closes uh, different contacts. It's the drawbar. You have 9 drawbars for the Hammond organ, and when you press it down, it closes more contacts. It's not like one, like with a synthesizer. So, and also the percussion is there reacting in a special way. So I think how you hit it makes the difference a little bit. I mean, it's not a big difference, but yeah, it has an influence. And also how you hit the note. I'm very often I don't know how to explain in English, but I hit the, another note a little bit before I hit the note which I really want to play, just for an effect also.
I wanted to ask about your MIDI technology. You started that in the 1980s, I believe.
Yeah, when it came out, when the MIDI came out.
Has it basically remained the same, or is that changing all the time?
No, not at all. As I said, I'm using old things. The point is that it was unique at that time, and I was the only person who used it, and I still am in a way. There's no organ player using those MIDI sounds, so it's kind of my trademark. And I mean, it worked very well, and I even didn't change much with my sounds because I found my sounds which I like, which work well with the Hammond organ, or I sampled my own bass sound. I used this for many, many years, and I never changed it. I mean, I'm sure there are so many new sounds I could try out, but I hate wasting time working on technique all the time on electronics. I just want to play. I want to sit down and play.
Well, before I forget, I want to be sure to ask you. Recently, you played again with the Philharmonic here in Bavaria.
Yeah,
Could you talk a little bit about that?
sure. I mean, I have recorded one CD with Philharmonic
Right, we talked
Orchestra,
about that the
Change
last
of
time.
Pace, right? Exactly. And recently I had a chance to play a concert at the Tegernsee, a beautiful area in Bavaria. And it was conducted by Eberhard Schöner. He is also someone, a little bit like Gulda was, someone who is going in many directions and who is open for classical music, for pop, rock, jazz. He's trying to combine all that, and he's creating very interesting projects with lots of musicians and different sounds and with art. And he made a big happening or a big event at the Tegernsee with lights, light show and everything. And he invited, I think we were around 150 artists taking part in this. So that was very interesting. He had a rock band, he had a wonderful classical violin solist, he had opera singers, he had a big philharmonic orchestra, he had a choir, a big choir. He had so many people doing their art, and I was part of it. And I played with my Hammond organ and with the Philharmonic Orchestra, one of my pieces.
Which
And
one did you play?
we played a summer day, which was perfect
Mm-hmm.
because it was a summer day.
Yeah.
And there was also a drummer playing with us, and a saxophone player, and a trumpet player who did a solo part on it. And I also did a solo piece because the general theme of the whole thing was the Passacaglia, and the Passacaglia means like walking by, the way, walking along the way. This is the meaning, the original meaning of Passacaglia. And Eberhard Schöner composed an 8-bar theme, a Passacaglia theme. And the idea was that musicians come by and improvise on that Passacaglia theme. Of course, he also wrote a big piece for orchestra because you can't improvise with a philharmonic orchestra. So it was always this Passacaglia theme in the whole concert, and it was played in many different ways. People did their own improvisations, their own arrangements, and in between, of course, there were other pieces.
I noticed that Jack Bruce
He
was
was
there. Did
there.
you have a chance to meet him, or were
Yeah,
you?
yeah. He loved the Hammond organ very much. He told me, and he really loved my performance. He said so. And we didn't have much time to talk, but it was really great to meet him.